Paris is not soft in November. It wears a thin slate light by day, and its night winds are sharp enough to cut through old scarves. 3 years ago, I stood beneath that gray November sky, my breath steaming into the ochre-lit night, and I felt every warning that the city could offer. That afternoon, I walked into the Salle Bertillon clutching my portfolio, hands already slick with sweat. I'd prepared for 6 months. Painting until the skin beneath my nails bore flecks of ochre and sienna that would not scrub away. My dream was ridiculous. My sister Sylvie said so. She laughed every time my mother whispered my name in exasperation. The oldest son, aiming to become a painter when everyone else needed steady salaries, government health stamps, and shoes that didn't come from the Marché aux Puces. But Sylvie didn't laugh that afternoon. The rain slicked the sidewalks and my shoes. Old and soft at the sole, slipped as I walked up the hall's stone steps. My hair was too short, teeth too crooked, eyes too brimming with hope. That's how I felt as the clerk nodded toward my place on the list. Inside, fluorescent lights made everything look whiter than life. The investors, bankers, a tech CEO, an editor from Elle sat in a panel row, their faces as flat and impassive as a courthouse frieze. I set my easels before them, unrolling canvas, fixing the edges. My newest piece, a portrait of Rue de Lappe at dawn, was taped to the back. At home, in the cramped attic I rented near République, I thought it contained secrets only a true Parisian would know. The gleam of rain on street stones, the splash of fat sparrows as they bickered over croissant crumbs. But as I faced them, their gaze fixed on me with clinical disinterest. I gave my speech. I spoke of color, of a new generation, and the wish for a gallery devoted to struggling artists, a place to gather, to risk everything, to show that Paris still pulsed. I'd rehearsed every line, but my tongue fluttered in my mouth, cottony and parched. The banker in the red tie asked, "What makes you think your vision will work? What have you sold?" His eyes scanned my canvases with the boredom of a judge dismissing a petty theft. I swallowed. "Nothing yet," I said, "though I pawned sketches to fund today's metro fare. But art isn't—" "Thank you," the CEO interrupted, her tone brisk. She turned to the next portfolio, already blind to mine. There was sparse applause, mostly polite, none encouraging. My shoes squeaked in retreat. I thudded down the marble steps alone, my knuckles white on the handles of my battered canvas bag. Out on the street, I pressed my fists into my eyes and told myself, just one more day. Go home, paint tonight, try again. But Paris is not soft in November. I called my mother the next morning, needing something, maybe comfort, maybe permission, maybe a way out. She listened as I stumbled through my story. She sighed as if she'd expected no less. "You have a diploma. At the city hospital, they always need assistance. Secure work. I could talk to Madame Lemoine for you." I picture Madame Lemoine's face, soft and fox-like, brows always knitted with worry. She'd known me since I was 8 and still colored my world in marker strokes. No, maman. Her silence said more than any words. In the background, I heard Sylvie's voice. "He can't admit it's hopeless. Not yet." I pressed the phone tight to my ear, staring at the crack that zigzagged from my window to the street below. I wanted to shout, to tell Sylvie she was wrong, but my tongue was sand. I missed dinner with them that night, feigning stomach pain. Word spread quickly, as it does in families that see each other more than the sunrise. My uncle called from Lyon, the tone already resigned, reminding me that no real man lets dreams humiliate his family. My father, who'd stopped painting when he was 22, only sent a text, "Come home if you change your mind." I learned a private choreography of shame. I moved with my chin tucked in metro crowds, kept my paintings close, avoided the galleries north of the Seine and the laughter of friends who'd become junior bankers, shopkeepers, chefs. When I ran into old classmates from Lycée, they'd ask what I was up to, and my mouth always shaped the words. I'm working on something new, a phrase that meant nothing and everything. Some nights I wandered the alleys behind the Place des Vosges, scattering bits of baguette for the pigeons, letting the cold sting my eyelids raw. I painted on the floor, easel broken, my canvases propped against empty wine crates. I sold a small sketch of the Canal Saint-Martin for €40 to a tourist, my hands shaking when the coins dropped into my palm. For weeks, that was all I earned. And yet, some fire gnawed at me when the morning sunlight streaked gray clouds gold above Sacré-Cœur. There was a tiny thrill when the bristles fanned color onto a blank surface. Some belief, unmoored as it was, still scraped at my ribs. At night, I stared out my attic single window thinking, Paris never said I would belong here. But the city had not yet spat me out. The hard winter drained the last of my coins. The radiator gasped and failed twice. I skipped meals, losing the fullness of my face until hunger felt like a static hum just below my heart. I missed birthdays, holidays, and the warm light of my family's kitchen, not out of rebellion, but for lack of bus fare or pride. Of course, those years bent me. There was nothing cinematic in the struggle, no wild adventure, just day after day of stretching single euros, taping up shoes, tipping salt into cheap lentils, and painting anyway. Sometimes I thought of giving up. The idea itself became a kind of phantom, pacing behind me in every silent room. My mother's voice haunted each failed commission. Sylvie's laughter echoed in the floral wallpaper of my memory. But if shame was the brick, then courage was the mortar. Each time I lifted the brush, I built a little higher, a wall against the world's noise. In my third year, when spring finally painted the sky blue, something changed. A gallery owner named Estelle passed by my street setup on Rue Oberkampf. She lingered as I painted, watching me fill a cafe terrace with color strangers laughing over wine, a curve of lamplight cradling the rim of a glass. Without ceremony, she asked to see more work. I showed her my attic studio. She paused, lips pressed, tracing the textures, the restless lines, the flashes of Paris, narrow windows like eyes, a sky stitched tight with wires and light. She nodded, making notes. There's something here, she said, voice soft but certain. A month later, she offered me space for a solo show. 6 paintings, 2 windows, and my name finally spelled right in a window decal. It felt like a dream built of fragile wax, ready to melt under scrutiny. The exhibition opened on a Thursday. I bought a new shirt, too formal, stiff at the collar, but clean, and left 2 seats unreserved by the gallerist's table, just in case. The street outside thrummed with evening life. Buses coughing, people exhaling spring at cafe tables. I shook so much I almost dropped my wine glass. Guests strolled through, some stopping, some quick to move on. At 8, Estelle pulled me aside, eyes wide. "Half have red dots," she said, the stickers marking pieces as sold. I blinked, numb, but she pressed a check in my hand. "It begins," she whispered. I wanted to call my mother, to tell her she could press this check against her cheek and smell the wet paint, the centuries of Paris's hunger and hope. I wanted Sylvie to see my name on the gallery wall and know that my dream was not just dust. But I went home instead, the weight of that first check burning in my pocket. I sat by my window, counting the lights blooming across the city, and let myself hope. That year, things unraveled and reknit in grooves both familiar and strange. Galleries called, some small, some grand, one in Lyon. I painted. Money came in lurches, enough to fix shoes, pay rent on time, fill the tiny fridge with real food. My mother called less, though when she did, her voice was softer, unsure. Sylvie sent a text once, saw a painting today, made me think of you. I started sending them invitations. 2 years slipped by, the city seasons shifting above my window. My paintings changed too, bolder, hungrier, the city's wounds and wonders pressed into street scenes, lovers on bridges, a girl with a green umbrella catching rainwater on her tongue. In late October, Estelle told me the Musée d'Art Moderne wanted to hang 2 pieces for a special exhibition, contemporary Parisians. It was, she assured me, a rare thing, rarer still for someone with my tangled barricade pulling past. Sylvie called that weekend. I almost missed the call, the phone vibrating at the bottom of a canvas-stained tote. "Remy," she said, her voice tentative, braced for rejection. "We heard about your museum thing." There was a silence, dense as old velvet. "Maman wants to come. She wants to see your work. We all do. They have a press preview on Friday," I said, my voice rougher than I'd expected. A pause. "Will you meet us outside?" I arrived early, nerves colliding against my ribs, smoothing my clothes every few seconds. I stood by the double glass doors, shifting from foot to foot.